What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we've got the Coronet up on the lift, and thankfully it didn't fold in half. Alright, so in the previous episode we were working on mounting the rear seats. In the meantime, I got bored of doing that, so I decided to move on to some sheet metal in the back. So I started working on this panel that runs along here underneath the trunk. It was rusted out, there was nothing left. So I've got started on that, as well as the filler panel that runs along there. So we'll have to weld that in. And as you can see, obviously, the Coronet is up on the lift. And the reason is, I want to make this thing run again. So, find a light here. So we already have our new longer drive shaft in. We got that made a while ago. My local drive shaft shop got that knocked out really quick. It is a steel one, where the factory police one was aluminum, but my local shop does not do aluminum ones, so we have a steel one, so I think that's going to be fine. The exhaust is probably the first thing that we are going to get started on. We are keeping the factory exhaust, at least for the time being. So I'm going to be reusing the factory H-pipe and simply extending each end. We have to extend the brake lines, which are right there. So we are going to reflare and make some extension pieces to reconnect those. On this side we have the fuel line and a vent line that we need to extend. So yeah, those are the main things. If you look under here, so far my frame rails that I made seem to be holding fine, which is a plus. We should be all good there. So yeah, that's what we're gonna get started on next. So probably be exhaust, so let's get started. All right, so we had to deal with some rusty snapped off bolts. But we were able to use an air chisel and get those chiseled out. So I've got some bolts. We're gonna go ahead and get the H-pipe bolted in place temporarily. I'll have to get some new gaskets for this and probably some proper bolts, but for the time being, let's see, this. Tricky doing this one-handed. Go. Jack set up here to hold the back part of it, which makes it a lot easier when I'm doing exhaust work by myself. Helps hold everything in place. All right, we'll find a couple more bolts to stick in there to hold it in place, and then we'll move on and see how much pipe we need for those back sections. All right, so we have our piece right here. We flared this end to fit over the end of the cat, and this side we flared the part of the H pipe in order to fit tight into this pipe. So the stock exhaust is 2-inch, and I used a 2¼ inch piece here for the extension. So I'm going to go ahead and tack it on this side, and we're going to use a clamp on this side. I don't want to weld it, because if we ever want to take the back section off or the front section, we wouldn't be able to do that if it's welded. So clamp on this side. All right, so we've got that tacked. We're gonna work on doing the extension piece on the other side, and then I'll pull the entire H pipe off and we'll fully weld that and then put it back in. All right, so we are flaring brake lines, and how to flare these. This is a flaring tool from Eastwood. If you've done brake lines, you very well may have one of these, but if not, I'll show you how it works. So you take your tube, and it has these dies that have a little taper in there, So you stick your tube down in there like that, fit the die over top, and then it has a clamp that you flip over, and then you tighten down a bit. And then there are 3 steps with this. The first one is you push it in, and that sets the line to the correct depth for flaring. So then you simply tighten that, knock stuff over in the process. So you tighten that down so that way it's the right depth. And then the first step does part of the flare, and you lubricate that a bit. Pull the handle till that stops. Go to the second operation. Pull it just like that. Loosen your clamp. And then you have a double flare. Now, one of the most important things on this, before you do the other end, make sure you put your fittings on for each side, because it is not a lot of fun to flare it and realize that you have forgotten your fittings. Ask me how I know. So yeah, that's how you flare that. Alright, so I've been plugging away on this thing, so let me show you what I've gotten done. Alright, so the exhaust we got just about done. So we, as you saw, we cut these extension pieces. I got them fully welded in and clamped on each end. I got new gaskets and new bolts with metal lock nuts on them. So that's all bolted in. I think I'm still going to add another exhaust hanger up here somewhere to keep that from hitting the frame. But other than that, the exhaust is done. We also got the... got the brake lines extended. That ended up being a pain. Sorry, struggling with light down here. That ended up being a pain. So on the Crown Vic, the brake lines are like plastic coated, which made them flaring really a pain. We had to use a little tool that flares. We couldn't take the brake lines on the car, had to stay on, so I had to flare them on the car, which is like a little handheld clamp that you clamp on the line and then screw in a fitting, and that's what flares the line out. And for some reason, I'm not sure if it's because of the plastic coating or what it was, but it was just a pain to flare. I did get it done though, eventually, and I'll show you here. So you can see the black lines there were original, and then we flared each end, put fittings and connectors. The 2 lines there, and they run up and reconnect there. So far, no leaks. We shall see. Fingers crossed on that. We also got the fuel line and I believe it's a vent line extended. Fuel line being the one right there and the vent line one right there. So what we ended up doing, it's a quick connect here, and they are hard lines that run back to there. And then we used compression fittings that go from hard line to high pressure, kind of like a plastic, kind of like a soft line, a flexible line. And so we ran those back and then did another compression fitting there and a quick connect on that end. Shout out to my brother for having tools in stock, which made this much easier. So shout out to him. I got a new fuel filter. Figured I might as well get a new fuel filter in it while I'm down here anyway. So I got that put in. So the fuel system is all hooked back up. As far as underneath here, we still eventually need to do the Parking brake cable, I'm not sure how I'm going to extend that. That has to extend from there up to right there. So we'll get that done. One thing I'm doing down here, I'm going to set you on the tripod. So one thing I'm doing is figuring out a way to fasten the lines to the frame. That way they're not just flopping all over the place. So we have these, sorry, I'm struggling with light tonight. We have these zip ties, and you can see them here. Zip tie, but they have a little, like a push fitting on that end. And what you do with that is if you have a hole in the frame, you simply push the little push lock in there and then take the zip tie and wrap it around your line and pull it through, and then it holds them really nice there like that. So something like that. So handy little things. So all right, so that's the main things underneath. So now one other thing we have been working on, we need to bleed the rear brakes as well. And one side, the bleeder came out of the caliper fine. On this side, I was careless and snapped a bleeder off in the caliper, which I was able to pull the caliper off and weld a washer nut to what was remaining of that bleeder and actually turn it out. So we got that out. We got a new bleeder screw for that, so we're gonna have to bleed the brakes. So I'll have to have a second hand to do that. But before we do that, I'm going to drop this thing down, and what do you think that means? With all this stuff connected, what can we do with the car now? All right, well, this is not the first start since I got this stuff hooked up. Obviously, I was excited as soon as a night or two ago when I had this hooked up that I have already started, I have already ran it, but it's been a long time coming. Watch this. All right, so obviously this is a huge step for me, which I'm super excited about. Having this thing run again. Once we bleed the brakes, it'll stop. So we can, at the very least, move it around and maybe with a little more work, even go for a little test drive. So super excited. It's so quiet, it's smooth, obviously. That's a big reason why I went to such great lengths to keep all the stock wiring, stock fuel system, everything, is so that when it came to this point, I could simply fire it up and it runs just like a stock Crown Vic, which I love. It's obviously not super loud, which I don't want for now. Smooth, quiet is what I've been trying to go for. So I think that's going to be about it for this video. As always, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate the support. I'll see you in the next one.